It's officially been 1 year since I opened my doors at OpenSet Studios and started taking clients. And I just wanted to share the process and some highlights from this first year in business. So as soon as I got the warehouse, I started building out the production studio first. I needed to make it minimal but efficient so that I could support small and big crews. So first I painted the walls black, I prepped and painted the floors, and then I started working on the white cyc. And later I added a retractable top-down light. Once I made enough progress on the big studio, I started working on other sets. So I built out the podcast studio, I outfitted the editing room, and I built an entire interrogation room. I left the big room, this room, open as a conference room until I moved the podcast studio in here because I just needed more space, which was a great idea since now I have way more space and I can actually set up a nice light grid to keep all my stands off the ground. I even added a second set in November. And with the old podcast room empty, I decided to turn that into a content studio, mainly for talking head like vlog style videos. I finished that in January, which meant that every room was fully equipped and I could stop the build phase finally and just focus on rentals. So my first rental ever was a music video in the interrogation room on February 28th, 2025. Then in March, I had Space Force rent the entire studio for a training video and they needed a blue screen for their video. So I had to paint the entire white cyc blue. But the very next morning, I had the New Braunfels Ballet Company coming in to shoot their entire year's worth of promo materials on the white cyc, which was now blue. So I had to repaint the now blue cyc back to white by 8 o'clock in the morning, the next morning in 12 hours. So lesson learned, hard lesson learned. I will never make that mistake again. And that's why we have a dedicated blue screen now. Then in June, things really started moving. I was getting consistent podcast rentals and production studio rentals. I had music videos, photo shoots, pretty big podcasters coming through the studio, which was incredible to see. I booked a music video with Rich and Greedy. He brought in a lowrider and painted his pit bull red completely in non-toxic pet dye, just so you know. Bean Chisme had a podcast with Austin Mahone. Sports Illustrated booked a podcast. My friend Jafar, he started his podcast, Backstories and Buy-ins, and has brought in UFC fighters and even interviewed Burn Factory, one of the top UFC podcasters, and started getting recurring podcasters, which was awesome. I booked a handful of heavy metal bands in the production studio, commercial shoots for local businesses and churches, and I was even able to shoot my own spec stuff now that I had all this at my disposal, which was awesome. And I was even able to host my own filmmaker networking events for Production Club. And what really blew my mind was when I got a call from a production company shooting a Nike commercial with Wimby. And they've been here twice now, which is incredible. I've had acting workshops, modeling workshops. I even had a shoot with SAFC for a clothing brand where they built an entire set for it. By last October, things were moving right along. I hit all of my first year milestones pretty much, but winter was coming. And the film industry goes to sleep in the winter and doesn't wake up till March. But by the grace of God, I got a call from a production company that needed a studio to shoot their own TV show. It was going to be a 10-episode season, all shot in a matter of weeks. And this, if it went through, would carry me through the winter months, so I didn't have to worry about the slowdown. And currently, they are shooting 8 hours a day, every day in my studio right now. I can't believe it actually went through, and it's happening right now. Everything I built this place for, music videos, commercial shoots, feature films, episodics, content creation, photo shoots, podcasts, it's all come to fruition. I built it and they walked out of the cornfields into my studio. And needless to say, I am incredibly grateful for how things are turning out so far. And it's the absolute most work I've put into anything. Having to build everything, manage bookings, run podcast sessions, and market and promote the studio takes literally every ounce of energy and attention that I have. I've learned so much over this past year. I'm just glad to see that this studio will survive. Like, that was the big question. Will this studio make it in San Antonio in this market? And I am pretty confident that it will. It's year one, so we'll see what happens down the road, but I'm incredibly excited to see how this next year plays out, how the next 2 or 3 years play out, and really what this studio becomes. And thank you to everybody who has rented from me in the last year, and anybody that's planning on renting. I hope to see you soon. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and that's all I got for you. Take it easy.